Is a weapon of resistance and activism. Kiss the Future, produced by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, premiered at the Berlin International Film Festival just past month. The film about the unbreakable connection between the legendary Irish band U2 and Sarajevo. It contains footage of the band's concert, which took place in Bosnia's capital shortly after the end of the 1992-95 war. But we will be uncovering the entire personal connection of this band in Sarajevo through the eyes of one and only Bill Carter. Bill Carter is the critically acclaimed author of 3 non-fiction books and director of award-winning documentary film Miss Sarajevo, produced by Bono Vox himself. Bill Carter currently teaches documentary studies at Northern Arizona University School of Communication. Bill Carter has traveled to more than 70 countries. In 2013, he gave a keynote speech at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on the power and importance of music in armed conflicts.
Well, I was born in what was once former Yugoslavia, Serbian mother, Croatian father, Albanian wife, and I was born in Slovenia. And I left and then was back there during the war. And when I was living, I live now in the United States, I started seeing kind of reflaring of nationalism in these things. I started thinking a lot about what happened in my own country. And I knew about the concert, and I thought the concert would be an extraordinary vehicle for a way to talk about what happened.
Nanad's very humble, but it was a very personal story for him, and to listen to him talk about it, it was really impossible for us not to want to be involved.
One of the most important thing was the multiculturalism of Sarajevo, and when you go there, what is so extraordinary is to have a mosque on one corner and a synagogue on another and a church and an Orthodox church, and to hear the tapestry of those sounds of the call to prayer from the synagogue and the choir, and they have inter-religious choirs that sing together on the weekends. It is really something extraordinary.
From the moment we heard about this all the way through, for me, I would get these cuts, and each cut I would watch was better than the last cut, and it just kept getting better and better. We would get on the phone and talk for an hour or two, and really, he was using me as a sounding board at that point, and then I'd say what he didn't want to hear, which was, okay, keep going.
Bill Carter to our show. Bill, welcome to N1, and it's so great to see you again.
It's really fantastic to see you. I always love being on with you.
Thank you. It's such an honor. Okay, so there is so much to revisit, to unpack, especially now the topic of U2, Bill Carter, and Sarajevo is in the public eye again. First of all, before we dig into the past, how was the premiere in Berlin?
It was incredible. There were so many things about it that were incredible. We had most of the Bosnians that are in the film were able to join us in Berlin, which was great. And then, of course, we had Bono and Adam were there, and Matt Damon, and the entire team of people that helped make the film, and financiers. It was great. It was a big pack of people. And then we had 1,800 people, sold out show. That's and amazing. Standing ovation for 10 minutes. People were very moved. It's a very, it's an incredible story, really.
How was it for you watching it all and thinking, hey, I did this. I contributed to this in a big way. How was it for you?
It was strange. I mean, throughout the process of making the film, I had the edit. I could see the footage, right, all the time in my house on a computer. We had a feed. It was weird. It's weird. It's weird to see you on camera. It's weird to see my friends. And not weird in a bad way, just it's very personal. These are very personal stories people are telling. And then, of course, it brings up other things, right, from that time. So I hope it was cathartic for people to do this, the Bosnians, in some way. And then seeing it on the big screen, I've never seen it on the big screen. I've always been, over the years, watching it on a computer screen. And seeing it on the big screen was very powerful. And with the sound design, I hadn't heard the sound design, which, by the way, was done by Samir Fulko, a Bosnian person. So that was great. And it was incredible. It was an incredible experience, incredible night. A
It hits you right there. I was there. This is real. I can imagine. A lot of our viewers are already asking, how did this collaboration with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck come to life? What are their own thoughts on Bosnian war? How much did they really know before getting involved in this project? What do you gather from all that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't really know how much knowledge they really had. I just know that, and the interaction was mostly with Matt, that he was very moved by the story. That was very clear. And Pearl Street is the name of his company, Ben and Matt's company, and their involvement was huge to get this to go to scale, to make it the kind of documentary that the story deserves. And they came in, the director, Nenad Chichenstein, he had a relationship with Matt. And so he reached out to him. I reached out to Bono. He reached out to Matt. Matt and Bono reached to each other. They know each other. And that's how it got going on a big level, right? So if you're going to navigate Hollywood, you need some people that can navigate it for you.
And Bill, how important is it for names like Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Bono Vox, and you talk about this topic now 30-something years after everything that has happened, in order to still bring the attention to what was going on in Bosnia, especially now when we see what's going on in Ukraine, and somehow we see that history repeats itself all over again?
It's one of the driving forces to make this film was, it started in the conversation started, Nenad called me and he was pretty gung-ho about the concert. He knew about the concert. But that wasn't going to be a film. That's not enough to make a film for U2. They're not going to be interested in doing that. So, and I knew that. So really had to help shape the story of what really happened, the story that you all know, the story that, and that's not known to everybody. So, but it's also for me, it was only 3 or 4 months after January 6th in America. Mm-hmm. And January 6th was a wake-up call for people in the United States to realize you can lose all this pretty quick if you don't hang on to the democratic institutions that make a society work. And that kind of led into some of the themes that would help make this film bigger than just Bosnia, but almost a story about what happens in a place where misinformation is almost a raging fire. And then you have Ukraine. Ukraine started when we were about to travel to Sarajevo to do our first interviews. And so suddenly there is another war now in Europe when we're filming this historical situation that happened in Sarajevo in Bosnia.
And when you look at it, you're thinking nobody's really safe. Nobody's really safe from what can happen if you don't pay attention. Could you tell us something about the storyline on about the documentary and on which is built?
Yeah, I mean, there's the basic kind of wide angle of this film is that there's a historical opening to it, people that help us set that stage of what the world was like back then, kind of post Berlin Wall. And then it quickly gets into the thing that touched me the most when I was there. And I think it's the part that is very unique to Sarajevo is the culture, and the art and the music and poetry and theater. All that stuff was happening when I was there. And that is one of the things that made me not want to leave. So that kind of comes into play right around there. And then we get into my entry into the story, which is crucial. Is important because I'm a catalyst, right? I'm a catalyst. I'm the one who reached out to U2, got them involved.
But if you didn't, none of it would come out.
Yeah, that's an overwhelming thought that sometimes I'm very uncomfortable thinking.
You, how was it watching it on a big screen, knowing that is real, that is you, this is what you did?
It's a little overwhelming. It's funny, a red carpet moment. I was walking up the red carpet, you know, there's 800 cameras on Bono and Matt and everybody. And I'm walking with Bono, and we get to the very kind of the tip, and he leans in and he's like, you know, you did this. You did this.
I knew it. I knew it. But you were just too humble, of course. I know you.
I said we did it. I said we did it. We did it.
But that's what a team player usually says. But you know, if you didn't, if you weren't here, if you didn't see what was going on, if you didn't have that interest, if you weren't the aid worker, if you weren't the journalist that you were, that is so powerful. It starts with you. We have to be honest here. Okay, before we continue about this, thank you so much for giving up a little bit of information about Kiss the Future. But let's go back to the 1993. And the band first became involved with Sarajevo exactly on the 1993, their Zoo TV tour, after being approached by you, after that interview in Italy, right? Being approached by you, bringing attention to the siege of Sarajevo. So the band conducted nightly satellite transmissions with Bosnians during their shows. Before we continue and dig into this, let's watch it.
You don't know if you don't know what you're seeing, if it's real. You can't tell the difference anymore between the adverts and what's happening on CNN or what's coming in on satellite. You can't ask the TV questions. You can't ask the television hard questions. Well, this is Zoo TV, and we're going to try and ask the television some questions, because we sent a satellite dish into the city of Sarajevo, and we got a friend there, a cool guy called Bill Carter, rock and roll fan. Let's see if we can get him on the line. Is it working? You there, Bill?
Yeah, I hear you, Bono.
Well, you got, I don't know, 50,000 people here, and we just wanted to say to you that it might not be on the news as much as we'd like, it might not be on the TV as much as it'd like, but you are with us tonight, you're with us here, and you're in our hearts tonight.
Thank you.
What's been happening today?
Well, it's about 11 o'clock here in Sarajevo, and today the fighting is very little, but there's a general fear in town that the town is getting smaller. The perimeter of the town is being fought, and the people are having to come to the center of town. And so the supplies of food and water and gas are becoming more of a problem. And also tonight, about 12 kilometers from here, there's about 10 to 15,000 people, refugees, that are being attacked by artillery, and they have nowhere to go. And on a personal note, my friend that had the piece of grenade in his head, he died this morning.
This is just incredible. Bill, can you tell us more about that day, about your friend that got killed, and what really happened, what was really going on?
Well, it was down, what part of town is that? It's like below Unis, on the way to the TV station area. And he just, you know, like many people, he got shrapnel, a random bombing. But, you know, as it happened back then, if you didn't have, it was hard. It's hard for the doctors. It was hard for people to save people, you know. I mean, when I was with the Serious Road Trip, we would smuggle morphine in and give it to the doctors at Kosovo. because, that was a nightmare in there. So, and what the work they did was incredible in that hospital to save people. Sorry, I went off story there. My fault.
No. I was asking you about it exactly. Sometimes, we listen to people, we see the bigger picture, but we never really ask them how they were doing at the time. And I'm just wondering how you were doing then. And you showed up that night with two of your friends, that one of them said hi to his wife, hopefully, that she was watching that concert that was in Italy. And it's a very moving story. But that started somehow the satellite transmissions possible. And how did you come to that idea? How did it all start for you? When did you say, okay, it's not maybe practical for you to come to Sarajevo because of security reasons, obviously, but let's do something else. Let's bring Bosnia and Sarajevans to U2, to the world.
Yeah. Now this is all in the movie, so I don't really want to give away too much, but but I mean, there's a lot of it's just historical facts, so it's okay. But how it's told in the film is quite good. I basically had the idea. I saw U2 down at Rat Art in the TV station, and I saw them on MTV talking about Bosnia, like sending a message to Bosnia. And I thought to myself, okay, these people are Irish. They're almost my age, not quite. And I thought, well, they're maybe they'd be receptive to talking. So it was kind of a harebrained idea. And there's a series of events that happens with me and the people in the TV station trying to get a fax to send to them. That I won't tell you about because it's in the film. But it did work, and I was able to communicate to them and basically faked my way into that interview room with him and do the interview. The interview itself is also, it's an amazing interview because it's a terrible interview, by the way. Terrible, but it's a great conversation.
Terrible interview.
And that conversation is that conversation is the baseline of everything that would happen after that. So that 15 minutes we spent in that room together is basically the foundation that everything has been built on that I've done with U2 and Bosnia. And it's kind of amazing.
It is kind of amazing. It is amazing, not kind of amazing. It is amazing. How did you, you were probably looking at yourself from outside of your body saying, I'm here, I'm doing it, I better do it now, right? Did you catch yourself thinking, how the hell am I here?
Yeah, I caught myself doing that, but it's a really good question. I think back to that time, that night, and things were moving so fast. So, because someone like Bono can make things move fast. And so I was just hanging on. And the whole thing was made up on the spot. What's next? Or what are we going to do? Or, so it was tricky I just went with it. And the reason is, and this is the really most important thing, really. The reason is because I wanted to get the people I knew that were in Sarajevo heard. So to me, that was the mission. So I didn't really care if I failed or if I was, meaning if I failed like professionally or something, but I needed it to get to happen. And so that was the energy behind me. And as long as that energy was my energy, I felt like I was invincible because what I'm asking for is very simple. I wasn't asking for money or, all the trappings that would come along with someone maybe meeting them. I just wanted this one thing. So that, I think, is why this could work, because the intent was clear.
It was clear. Because usually you'll have journalists go to war zones or try to get a message out, but sometimes, you know, they themselves become the news, which is something that a real journalist would never want. Real journalists would want the voices to be heard, you know, of the people who are suffering. That's exactly what you've done. First of all, thank you for that. I mean, all your contribution to this country and to this city is just amazing. Thank you. I really want to thank you on behalf of all the Bosnians and Herzegovinians. And the messages are very clear. I do want to play another clip exactly about the messages. This is a U2 concert in Britain with a satellite link to Sarajevo, and these are the messages of the women Sarajevans for the British audience. So let's watch it.
My name is Elma, and I'm Muslim, only by name. I'm not religious. These are my friends. Olja is Serb, and the other is half Croat, half Serb. We have been friends for 25 years. And in this war, our friendship became stronger and deeper. Although they want to separate us into three nationality countries, but we want to live together, and we shall live together for the rest of our lives. We still here and stay here.
I'm sorry. Nobody knows what the is going on. All we know is we've left you there, and we have no answers for you. And we feel rather ridiculous tonight being in a rock and roll band in this fantasy of Zoo TV with your reality there in Sarajevo.
Again, another great message, especially from Bono coming. We have no idea what you are going through, and it feels ridiculous that we are having a rock concert and you are under siege. In the earlier clip, you mentioned the cities becoming smaller and smaller. Is this how you felt? Is this how it really was for you, for somebody who is an, let's say, outsider, somebody who came there, who could leave anytime he wanted? You could have left anytime you wanted, but you didn't. So these messages that we are hearing from Sarajevans are really powerful, and they are still very, very relevant. So I want to talk about a concert after the war. So after the conflict ended in November '95, U2 made arrangements to eventually visit Sarajevo with help from United Nations ambassadors and peacekeeping troops. So they scheduled to play at the concert in 1997. So approximately 50,000 people, fans, attended the show. So how was it eventually for them to really be in Sarajevo after everything that has happened, after everything you told them, after everything that they've done and they heard? How was that feeling to finally be in Sarajevo?
Well, I mean, really, you should ask them. But my sense of it is, you know, being there that night myself and just witnessing the town, the city, the residents in that one place was overwhelming for me, just completely overwhelming to be in that place with everyone, because that really hadn't happened, at least since I had been there. And I'm sure I mean, listen, I'm going to speculate, but I mean, the band, I think, was overwhelmed as well. I mean, I think they're overwhelmed with, I mean, the band's very, very aware that their music has an impact on people, and if they can be useful, they want to be useful. I think that's how I feel. Like, if I can be useful, I wanted to be useful. I think that's how U2 sees themselves, as if they're useful in that moment, they want to be useful, and that's a big part of who they are, which I think is really fantastic. I think there's no one that was at that concert. That concert was overwhelming. So, you know, it was a beautiful moment of celebration. And just kind of one moment where everybody could come together and just remember that we're together. And
together, yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I should say something. You know, you've kind of covered the satellites and everything in the interview I did. You know, I said this in the press conference at the film festival. I mean, it's not a mystery. My involvement here in Sarajevo, in Bosnia, I almost left in the first 2 weeks of that being there. It was very intense. I wasn't maybe ready for that, because watching people suffer is it's not comfortable. But what happened is I started meeting people, not just delivering food, because that's kind of you do it and you leave, right? But I started to meet people. And when I started to meet people and hear the humor and hear the fellowship amongst people in the same room and the conversations, it didn't take very long for me to fall very in love with a lot of people. And I was very comfortable with how Bosnians think. Like, I love it. I love how Bosnians laugh and humor and take the piss out of it's a very funny place. And it's a very smart place. And it's a very intellectual place. It's very cultured. And to see that in that time, under those circumstances, and it was still thriving, was phenomenal. Not just to me. I think that's true for a lot of foreigners that came. You wanted to embrace it. You wanted to fuel it or give it fuel. Whatever I could do to help get that out there or be part of it, I was going to do it.
Your camera follows, and this is Miss Sarajevo now. We're talking about Miss Sarajevo. One of the greatest things that I've ever seen in my life. Your camera follows the alternative scene of artists, young people determined to live as normal a life as they could under the most difficult and dangerous conditions. When you look back on it now, does it seem surreal to you?
Yeah. I mean, it was surreal when I was there, but it's the whole thing. This whole journey is surreal, because are you talking about me or the surrealness of the art?
Surrealness of the art and surrealness of you experiencing it in real time.
Yeah, it was surreal. It was a very surreal experience to go into the disco or into Obala. And just hang out with people trying to watch a film, or a band with the generators and, the whole thing. It was the amount of effort that it took to get things going was part of the job. That's what people did. And I remember one of the most amazing things that happened was I was very close to a family in Sarajevo, and I lived with them for a time. And Chiba, he's a painter, and his wife Amra and daughter Anya. And he had an art show, like painting, and where it was located was horrible in terms of snipers. And everybody ran to get into that art show, right? It was almost like the door was open, the door was safe. It was actually getting to the location of the door that was not safe. So everybody would just kind of run in. Like a tiger was right behind him, and be like, then they'd just calm down, and we're all wearing suits, and then it was an art opening. And I remember thinking, people are risking their life to go to an art opening. And of course they are, because that's what you did. You supported your friends and you wanted to celebrate art. And that was surreal. The whole thing was surreal, but also to me, it was also just an incredible expression of being human. You can't stop being human in a war. As a matter of fact, that particular war, because it was a siege, everything's gone. So what you have left is those things like music. Music is an instant language. You don't need a lot of help with music. You just need to hear it. Same with art. It's one of those kind of basic tenets of the human experience is art. And I think Sarajevo embraced that, not like to be known for that. They just did it because that's who they are. And it was surreal to be part of it, or to watch it, or experience it, to film it. And now to revisit it again, you know, it
has become.
It's why
it
yes.
has become a part of you. This is you now. There's no going forward and revisiting from time to time. No, this is now who you are. And I think probably this is what you realized probably in Berlin, watching it. Oh, okay, so this is real. This is me. I've read something about you, and I love this. I would like to, have you elaborate on this. It says Carter described his experiences in Sarajevo, helping Bosnians while surviving the dangerous living conditions. Lead vocalist Bono was unnerved to hear that those living in makeshift bomb shelters in the city played music, including U2, at loud volumes to drown out the sound of explosions. Can you elaborate?
You mean U2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they knew what was happening. They knew U2 was a part of the city's soundscape. I was the person who connected to U2, but I think U2 was already, they were aware. They were. I think like artists everywhere, there was other bands doing charities in different cities around the world. I think that I just happened to catch them at the right moment, if you know what I mean, and kind of help catalyst this situation. And they were ready. I think they were ready to do something. Like we talked about this already, but basically, Bono wanted to come, with me, and play. And it that turned into kind of a unrealistic situation. So that's how the satellites came. And then, they built their own energy and their own connection with the city, right? That connection became their connection with the city. They became the biggest microphone you can get. And, that's a relationship that exists between you and them,
mm-hmm.
And those kind of relationships it's the same with me in the city. I feel very strong about Bosnia and Sarajevo very deeply, but I would feel that way whether I go there ever again or whether I know I just feel that way. It isn't something that I, work on, or it's just what it, like you said, who I am. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of other things. I make documentaries about it. I go into Africa in 10 days to make something on diamond mines, and I write, and I'm a professor, and but this is a part of my life that is important to me, so I honor it. And anytime I get asked to do talks around the world on Bosnia, and sometimes I think I don't want to do that. But I always do it because two reasons. One is the most important one, which is I believe in the things I'm talking about right now with you about what is that magic of that city and the situation that happened there in terms of why it should not ever happen to people, meaning siege, war. The second one is I'm a professor as well. And to me, part of our job is to, if you can, to and maybe inspire, right? Like I was 26. I had no resources. I had $200. I didn't know anybody. I had no ticket home. I flew on a one-way ticket to Croatia or to Europe and took a train to Croatia. And a lot of stuff happened in my time here, the stuff we're talking about. And there's probably some kid out there that I talk to in a hall, and maybe they're thinking, what can I do? Mm. And so part of me thinks that I need to pass that on, that you can do something. You don't have to have the riches and the connections and all this stuff that we think stops us, right? The roadblocks of life. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any of that. So, I didn't have any of those things that you think you need to have. So I try to help maybe pass that along is that it's possible to make a change. You don't have to make a big change, but you can make a change, in your home, in your neighborhood, on your street, in your school, in your blah, blah, blah. It can start small. And if there's a lot of micro smalls going on in the world, we have a different world. So I'm one of those kind of believers.
When you say to pass it on, I have to pass it on. It's almost like it's not yours anymore, you know?
No.
You have to pass it on. It's not only yours anymore, and you don't have the rights to just keep it for yourself, even if you could. But that would be very selfish. But it's not yours anymore. It sounds like it's a public good now, which is amazing, of course. I always wanted to ask you this, and we've had our interviews before, and I always somehow forget to ask that because we always concentrate on certain topics that are more technical. But what was, looking back, or just sitting there and thinking about it and feeling it, even if you don't think about it, what was the worst moment for you during the siege of Sarajevo? In Bosnia in the 90s. When were you thinking, okay, this is my worst day. This is the worst day of my life?
Well, I had a few of those. Almost being shot. Seeing people suffer. I don't know if there's any one day. I just know that I lived in the Unis Tower on the 7th floor, and I lived there for a long time with Graham Bent from the Serious Road Trip, and then he left, to go do other to do more work inside and around Bosnia, and when you're there alone, I mean, this is, I don't want to sound pathetic, but it gets weird. It's kind of a lonely, and the Unis Tower wasn't nice. It was a horrible, it was destroyed and burned. And so it was not like, I slept on the floor. And I think that was a target practice. So there's a lot of incoming to that building. So you just felt like sometimes, what am I doing? I'm trapped. I'm alone. Coming home from the satellites, to be honest with you, every night when I came home, that was a very strange experience. First, I had to get the people that I had taken down to the TV station home safely, which, okay, there's that journey. Then I would go to the Unis Tower. No lights, of course, right? So walk up the 7 stairs to the 7th floor, glass, open the door, and there's no one there. You just had 80,000 people in your ear, right? And now you're just sleeping on the ground.
And all the adrenaline is gone, and you're asking yourself, what for? What am I doing?
No one knows. And no one knows that we're doing this. I mean, Bosnians didn't really know we were doing this because we didn't have a way to show anybody or to tell anybody. It was either the people who knew we were doing it were in the building of the TV station, and the people who did the satellites. But it was kind of a weird experience.
Then you are with yourself. That is a lot of. It's not a trauma at the moment, but something you probably, like you said, you don't want to sound desperate, but it is desperation if you think about it better. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was way better off when I was with my friends, if I could, but they had their own lives and their families, so, but when I would find them in the club or at soccer, I played soccer with some people in Scandinavia. And so, that was when I was good, when I was with my friends, I was fine. But I mean, listen, anybody who lived in that war had scary moments happen to them. I mean, there's no escaping that. So I had those moments. I had very close calls. Really close calls.
Were you thinking, I'm doing this by choice?
Yes, I knew I was doing it by choice. And I had no illusion. Like you said, I could leave. And eventually I did, after the satellites, U2, kind of dragged me out of there. And that allowed me to make Sarajevo, so I'm glad. But I kept coming back and finding ways to come back because, you know, one of the worst parts of leaving Sarajevo, for me, I can't speak for a Bosnian, but during the war was survival guilt, right? Like, I'm home. How do I go back to the United States and go to a Starbucks when the people I know are living in Sarajevo and I know what they're living through? That's a horrible mind trap. It's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling, which is why I always convinced a magazine or somebody to send me back, because I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with that, that my friends were there and it.
Wow. Thank you for telling me this. I never knew this. You know, you are always welcome here. You know, this is your home. And I understand that. I live with that feeling for 27 years.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I mean, most people, right.
I know. And I know that you will always keep this narrative going exactly for this. Do you need a moment?
Yeah, I keep it going because I was telling you, I think it's important to not forget what can happen. You know, it's you know, right now we have Ukraine, we have nationalistic tendencies kind of rising up around the world more and more, and you know, we have to actively work against that to not let it happen. You know,
does it infuriate you when you see it and you know what Bosnians have been going through? And does it infuriate you thinking, why in 21st century learn something?
Yes, it infuriates me. I mean, I'm going to keep it local, you know, United States. There's things that are going on here right now are unfathomable to me. And in some ways, it's like you don't know what you have. Not you, but like Americans think that it's all the conspiracies running around. It's really not good right now. And I just think you're spoiled. You don't know what you got. Don't fight to create a fight just to create a fight. You know, you have a good situation, and it scares me because people will get really lazy about holding on to what you got, and it's a pretty good thing. So hang on to it.
And when you get lazy, we said things can happen, things you don't expect. We went really deep here. I'm sorry for that, but I was really wondering what was going through your mind, and you know, having you here, and I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes at the time. And of course, everything you've done for Sarajevo, I mean, I don't have to mention it. You know very well. And I know you're humble. I know you think that's how things just come together. But you know, thank you, really. Before I let you go, if we could maybe get an information on when could we see the Kiss the Future documentary? Is anything scheduled? Are you guys coming to Sarajevo Film Festival? Is anything you can give me?
No.
No. Okay.
No, meaning I can't give you much. Yeah, I can't give you much there. There's you know, I can't. There's people working on things, so I can't really speak about that. But I want to say something to you that you kind of talked about with me. Mm-hmm. I did none of what I did there so that I could be on your show, or that I could write a book, or that I could make a film, or that I could. That is not why I did what I did. It's
I know.
It's a byproduct. It's a byproduct, but it's not why I did what I did.
I know. We already said that. It's a public good. It's not yours anymore. Give it up. Give it up, Bill. All right.
You got it. You can have it.
We're having it. We know this. I know this. We know this. Thank you so much. Anything more you would like to tell our Bosnian and regional audience as well? Anything you would like to? I mean, you already said a lot. But
I'm sure that I'm.
I mean, It's mine to ask if you have anything else to tell audiences who are really, really happy always to see you and to hear from you. Here's your chance once more.
Oh, you know, I'm sure they've had enough of me, but you know, just stay who you are. I mean, I know there's a tough time there in terms of politics, and you know, I know what's going on, but you have a lot of friends and allies, and we believe in you. So keep it going.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you really for speaking to us once more. Looking forward to seeing you in Sarajevo.
Yeah, me too.
Let's do something together. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
People from my country, from this town, I guess that they all have their way of fighting. So not just men with guns, but also women with their beauty.
My son is most important for me, not my life anymore. His life is important for me, to give him normal education, normal youth, normal living, without shells, without grenades, without jetnings, without this fucking bloody politics.
Sarajevo was under siege for 1,460 days, despite the shortage of basic food items and other goods, plus the lack of electricity and water. People took a pride in their appearance and attracted the attention of foreign journalists and women's magazines. Media reports about besieged Sarajevo were, of course, full of photographs and images of destruction and killings. But in 1993, a Miss Besieged Sarajevo beauty competition was organized. A bizarre idea, but one that powered beauty could still send a strong message. Brent Sadler, CNN.
It was a day of beauty shining through the horror of war. A contest to find a girl who would win the title of Miss Sarajevo under siege. Some light relief in a city heavy with sorrow. It was time to smile, to walk their best, impress the judges with glamour and poise, and enjoy life such as it is. A life of uncertainty and fear, with little hope of it ending soon. You couldn't hear the falling shells outside, but Sarajevo's SOS was clear for all to see. This is what happened on the day they tried to name the siege queen a week earlier. Shells rained down, bringing more death and destruction. Since then, the city has been hit by sporadic artillery fire, striking daily at anybody, at any time, anywhere. But the reality of Sarajevo today was masked by a little glitter and gloss. They sang for Sarajevo, a song of no surrender.
I think this is refreshing for all of us after a year of horror and hell. This is a kind of defiance to our enemies.
Several hundred joyous people braved the shelling to watch. One of Sarajevo's defending generals joined the judges, whose scoring narrowed it down to 3 finalists. There were no prizes, no crown. First, second and third were announced in reverse order, as is customary. The runners-up hid their disappointment well. And when the winner was announced, she looked dumbfounded at her new title, just like winners anywhere else. "17-year-old Inela Nogic said it was unbelievable, a happy dream. But when Inela and her friends went home, their pleasant dream turned into a continuing nightmare. Brent Sadler, CNN, Sarajevo.
Miss Sarajevo is a song by Irish rock band U2 and British musician Brian Eno. It was released on 20 November 1995. Italian tenor Luciano Pavarotti makes a vocal appearance singing the opera solo.